Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you that are calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through our calls, bottom line the information for you. We know you're busy people, you have other things to do. We have a standard format. We spend a few minutes talking about the situation as it evolves in Iraq, as we continue to believe that the Iraqi dinar is the base currency for the potential reset of some of these other pre-valued currencies. A few minutes talking about the program we've put in place to assist you. And then we go to a brief Q&A. So let's get started and talk a little bit about the situation in Iraq, and there is a lot going on. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. And, of course, the most important issue for those of us that have currencies, the most relevant issue would be the window for the potential reset of the Iraqi dinar. And since the situation in Iraq has been very fluid and all over the map, so have been our projections as to a window. If things go well, and we'll get into that in a moment, we're looking at a reinstitution of the dinar somewhere within 45 to 60 days. If things get postponed, which is a distinct possibility, we're looking at a backstop of January of 2021. But even if that were to occur, we're only talking roughly about 7 or 8 months. So for those of us that have had currencies for a decade or more, another 7 or 8 months is not that long. But let's get into a little bit of a discussion about what's going on in Iraq. And as I said, it's very fluid there. My understanding is that they are a go for the vote later today for the new government of the nominee for the prime ministership, Mustafa al-Kazemi. The successful passage of his government would create a situation in Iraq that we have not seen in a great number of years. That is a situation where we have a stable, functioning government. Now, last week, when talking about the situation, I said that I thought that the confirmation of Mustafa al-Kazemi was doubtful and that they had a Lawi in the background if necessary, and of course he still remains there. But since last week, it looks as though the new government of al-Kazemi may pass. And if that in fact happens, Iraq may finally be emerging from the Iranian-backed chaos that they have been living through for about a decade. A number of things point to the potential stability for Iraq. First, unlike 2012 and 2014, when they had governments in place, albeit corrupt governments, the CBI had not completed its work. That's not the case today. The CBI has been monitored, that is the CBI operations, by the Finance Committee established by the Parliament and in the last perhaps 3 or 4 weeks, the U.S. Treasury. And the CBI has concluded its work with the deletion of the zeros. The lower denoms and coinage are in the possession of the 8 regional banks awaiting distribution to the populace. And it looks as though the auctions, that is the auction of the dinar in order to acquire dollars, is now being done digitally. Now, what's important about that is with the auctions being done digitally rather than the exchange of hard dollars, that eliminates the Iranians' opportunity to skim from the auctions. And Iran has already lost a substantial amount of the influence that it had in Iraq. First, with the death of Soleimani, who is the head of the Quds force and the Iranian mullah's right-hand man in the Middle East, and his second-in-command in Iraq, Muhandis. These two individuals, it comes as no surprise, are irreplaceable to the Iranian mullahs. It also looks as though the Shia blocs, with the exception of Maliki and the State of Law Coalition, are supportive of al-Kazemi. The Iranians then ran to the region of Najaf and the Kurds, hoping that they would vote against al-Kazemi, and they were rebuffed there as well. The price of oil is slowly rising, which helps Iraq, and it doesn't have a direct effect on the reinstitution, but it does have a direct effect on the rewrite of the budget. They're breaking the budget up into parcels. They're going to be rewriting the budget for the first 5 months, and then they're going to go to a 1/12 or month-to-month budget thereafter, which makes it easier for the currency to be reinstated because they recalibrate on a monthly basis. And the slow rise again in the price of oil, while it's not where it needs to be, is at least helping to reduce the budget deficit that the Iraqis were looking at when the oil hit negative prices. In addition, the Imam Sistani, the Shia leader, has finally broken with Iran and the Iranian-backed militias and the PMF. Now, the PMF, the Popular Mobilization Authority, is the group that was harassing the protesters. So, silencing Iran, putting the new government in place, completing the currency reforms and the CBI operations could all be accomplished very short order. Lastly, the new government, according to Mustafa al-Kazemi, is going to enforce the accountability and justice law. And that means al-Maliki specifically and many of the officials in the State of Law Coalition understand that the days of immunity for them are coming to a close. So again, we wait on this vote. I would not be surprised if for some reason the vote is delayed, which is why our window is 45 to 60 days, because constitutionally they're at the end of their rope. It could happen, but again, we also have Alawi in the background too, and he has support as well. So it looks as though, in my opinion, we have a better than 50-50 chance of getting everything done as early as this week. And that's very good news for individuals who are in possession of the Iraqi dinar. Of course, those of us that are in possession of the Iraqi dinar, we tend to be somewhat focused on that one issue. The reinstitution of the dinar is just one of a great many things in the scheme of what's happening in Iraq. But from our perspective, what is happening in Iraq is pushing us toward the reinstitution of that currency. So that being the case, we are running out of time to get our affairs in order. Most individuals that are holders of the dinar do not have a substantial amount of the currency, and they are in large part hardworking middle-class individuals that have never had a substantial amount of wealth and are unaware of some of the sophisticated techniques that they're going to need and want in order to protect and grow this wealth. To that end, Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phase program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Post-RV involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that you will need and want after the revaluation of the dinar globally and this newfound wealth that you're going to now need to manage and protect. So let's start with phase 1, which is the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts, again with your currencies assigned to that trust package. There's a very specific reason why we have established a package of irrevocable trusts. largely because this is the only bulletproof asset protection available to you as a United States citizen. Individuals have established different entities to provide different levels of asset protection, but there are inherent weaknesses in all of them. For example, individuals have established LLCs and sub-S corporations, and they can provide asset protection primarily by separating business assets from personal assets. But remember, these currencies are a personal asset and not a business asset as such. In addition, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations owned in the majority either by one person or a closely held group can be pierced for civil litigation. So the LLC and the sub-S corporation are not going to be appropriate in order to protect this newfound wealth. Some individuals have established an entity called a revocable or a living trust. Now, these trusts can exempt one's estate from probate and substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate the federal estate tax, but the revocable or living trust can provide no privacy or asset protection, so they're going to be inappropriate for your needs. Some individuals have established a single irrevocable trust, and that does provide a higher level of asset protection, but even the single irrevocable trust has an inherent flaw, and it's this. All of the assets are housed within that one trust. So if any asset within that trust gets involved in civil litigation, that would necessarily drag all of the other assets and net worth into that litigation. So the individual or single irrevocable trust is going to be insufficient as well. The answer and the solution is to create a package of irrevocable trusts, and I will explain to you why this is the only entity that can provide the asset protection you're going to need both pre- and post-RV. In addition, such a package must be established prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies for the following reasons. First, by establishing our package of irrevocable trusts, you will protect your privacy and your anonymity from day one. Why? Because the assets within our trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will successfully avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you are holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will probably spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation and the taxable event that it will create relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming. It would certainly be frustrating because to have an IRS 6-year audit at the precise time of this revaluation is going to be extremely frustrating because there's many other much more important things you'd rather be doing. And third, the cost of a 6-year audit would probably be more than the cost of our asset protection trust. On the other hand, if your pre-RV asset protection trust package is in place and you have assigned your currencies to that trust package, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an IRS audit if the taxable event of this revaluation were to occur within a rather sophisticated trust package such as ours. And second, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV trust package is if you plan on gifting currencies to family and friends in certain situations. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies to family and friends prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the U.S. dollar lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, that can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, then you can gift to them through the special gift subtrust that we have created as part of our package. By gifting through this subtrust, their U.S. dollars will be protected along with yours. The language of this subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain currency or currencies, meaning you can gift to these individuals the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you're gifting to them through this gift subtrust, you will be able to personally manage, invest, and distribute this money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. And this can only be accomplished through gifting through this gift subtrust. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you two quick scenarios. Scenario number one, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now this estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that your rather large estate is a matter of public record. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie your estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess in order for your estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Now, this scenario is not only unacceptable, it's completely and totally avoidable. Scenario number two, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that very same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate, there will be no public disclosure of your estate, your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust package is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the currencies at the time you transferred them out of title and to the trust, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. This is why we have established a package of trusts, and this is how it would work. Once again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. And now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust, the initial trust you established pre-RV. Now, how does this protect you from future bad acts in the future? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs are left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will mercifully not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets and net worth are safely protected in the other subtrusts. Why? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities or persons, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue a separate legal entity or person. So this trust package works very much the way a commercial barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, all of these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of trusts prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in all the product, services, and professional referrals that you will need and want and will be made available to you after that revaluation. I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. Many of our clients have already expressed the desire to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3, nonprofit, and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is with a direct transfer of funds from your asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We will also have our tax specialists there to assist you with some of the more sophisticated tax strategies that you're going to need to understand after you've acquired this wealth. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. You're also going to want competent assistance there. We know that statistically, 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and at work in other markets. Lastly, we know the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial amount of your net worth invested in tangible assets in order to avoid that volatility and loss of wealth. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV, your financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV, and is empowered to manage the other sub-trusts. One gift sub-trust, which at any time can be converted to a standard sub-trust, and 8 additional sub-trusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package which had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But nearly a decade ago, when we decided to work with Dinarians, we knew that this price tag was going to be unaffordable for many. So by deferring the funding of this trust and simplifying the package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. That's not possible. We do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust to you. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their affairs in order and their trust in place pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd pay under our deferred payment arrangement. This is the only cost of this trust with one exception. The only other cost of this trust package lifetime are the paralegal fees involved in amending your trust and funding the sub-trusts. I'll give you an example. Let's say 3 or 4 months after the revaluation, you've negotiated your exchange, you have your financial assets in place in your master trust, and you decide to purchase a beach home. So you call us and you say, I'm about to close in about 30 days on a beach home, $400,000 property. I'd like to create a sub-trust to protect that beach home. The paralegal fee involved in creating that subtrust would only be somewhere between $150 and $200. And so for that rather nominal sum, you'd be able to protect a $400,000 asset. So this trust package will serve you both pre- and post-RV, literally, for the rest of your life. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. I certainly hope the information we've provided has been compelling. I would also urge those of you that have listened to this call for the first time to contact us and get our no-obligation initial package. It'll give you a lot of information about us, about the trusts, about the revaluation. You can review that package. Contact us if you have any questions at all. We'll be happy to assist you, and there will be no consultation fee. Now, we will be going to a Q&A in just a moment. I strongly suggest you have a pen and paper ready because I will be providing you with our contact information. But just before we go there, and again for the benefit of our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited, and again why you may want to seriously consider contacting us to get our initial no-obligation package. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in those areas for over 38 years, including international currencies. My clients and I were personally involved in the reinstitution of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in these niche areas. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. And it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, under our system of civil litigation, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them or lose them outright. And it's precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title under our system of civil litigation can be taken from you. So the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you anticipate a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, thanks for listening to the call. I'm going to the Q&A in just a moment. And before we get into the Q&A, I will be providing you our contact information. So I'm going to go ahead and open that Q&A now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'm going to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last digit or number. Rather than dialing a 4, you'll dial a 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-POUND. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be in our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but after the reinstitution of the Dinar, emails may be going out on a weekly basis. So let's go to the Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 808. 808. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim.
Hello?
It's Daisy from Hawaii.
Daisy, how are you?
I am good. It's early morning here, though.
Oh, my God, that's right. You're oh, right. Sorry about it.
No problem. I know I've heard this, and I listen to you, and I listen to your whole thing all the time, but I was asked this question the other day when I was talking to my friend about this, possibly happening sooner than we expect. What happens should I pass the day before it reevaluates?
Well, I would say you've got the worst luck possible. Now, if you were to pass away the day before, those currencies would be part of your estate, and that property would appreciate as part of the estate. It would be part of the post-mortem administration. And the estate planning guidelines, which are statutory and you're in Hawaii, would apply, as would the assessment of the federal estate tax. And the individuals that are inheriting your estate, if the assets are outside of trust, are basically at the will of the probate process in your estate. If they are included within our trust, there would be no probate. There would be a distribution of the assets. After you would probably at that point want to hire a tax accountant to make sure that whatever taxes needed to be paid on the profit were paid, and then the net proceeds would be in trust for the benefit of your successor beneficiaries, whomever you named.
Okay, I believe I have myself and another person as trustees of this estate trust.
Okay, if you have a joint trust, that means you have a co-settler, then all of the benefits of the trust are there for the benefit of that co-settler while living, and then when that co-settler passes away, however you have determined to distribute that money to heirs is how it will be distributed.
So, in other words,
what will probably happen, unless all parties agree, all of the assets will remain in trust and then distributed to the beneficiaries for their benefit.
Okay, can I somehow make sure that because that's what I would like, because like you said, these people are people who have never, and if this doesn't would not happen, I
understand. Well, remember, you still have your trustee. Your trustee would be obligated to proceed and to provide for them the same benefits they provided for you. So, and again, the only way that the assets would come out of the trust is if everyone agreed that's what they wanted to do, and that's kind of unusual.
Okay, great. I know. See, I always think of things like, well, what happens if I go the day before,
Well, I know this is, don't punish me for saying this, but let's just hope you're not pushing up daisies before the RV. All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I hope not. I've waited long enough.
I know. That's a bad thought,
I know. But, it's life, and I have lost so many friends along this journey who's been in, this waiting also. And,
well,
the other Yes.
I'm actually asking myself the same question because I had a couple of health issues last year, and I started looking into this a little bit myself. Not, after I got over the woe is me, how dare God take me right before the revow, then I started thinking, wait a minute, I want to make sure my kids and my grandkids are taken care of. I do not want Uncle Sam to swoop in here and take all my hard efforts.
Yes, that is my concern, because the reason I did this is for them.
Well, let's put it this way. Irrespective of the details, one thing that's not going to happen is the government's not going to come in and take a dime.
Okay, great. All right.
All right?
Yeah, so if I go tomorrow, I'm okay.
Well, you won't be okay, but the assets in the trust will be.
Right. Yes. Thanks a lot, Jim.
Okay. Okay.
Bye.
All right, our next caller here, by the way, some of our people, we've been together for a long time waiting on this revaluation. So, we know each other and we can kind of talk off the cuff this way. I frankly prefer it that way. Our next caller is area code 801. That's 801. Go ahead.
Jim, can you hear me? It's Clay Blackwell.
Yes, sir.
How are you this morning?
Okay, I'm sure you've got a very detailed and intense question for me.
Well, I missed a little bit of the first part of your presentation. I always enjoy listening to you, but I was running late from another appointment. But it sounds to me like whether Kadimi or whether Alawi gets in, one of the two will, or Saleh will turn to dissolving the parliament. Is that what you're feeling?
That's where we are right now. Now, we can never underestimate the Iraqis' propensity for screwing up an already screwed up situation. But they're running out of bullets. They're going to have to approve this guy. They'll bring Alawi back in, and if that doesn't work, Salih's there. So they're just at the end of the line. There's no more excuses. There's no more obfuscation. There's no more delay. That's the best way to put it. Those are the only three options, and it's got to be one of them.
If Saleh decides to take over the prime ministership, he'll be the president and the prime minister. Would he head parliament at that point, or
what he might do is resign?
Prime minister?
What he might do is resign as president. I don't know that he can hold both positions. That's a good question. I would imagine if he cannot, he'd resign as president, or he could theoretically even assign someone else as the prime minister designate, but they got Mahdi for that. So we're right back to, if it's not Al-Kazemi, it's going to be Alawi, and if it's not Alawi, it's going to be Salih, and that's where we are. Now, if it's not Al-Kazemi, then, of course, this thing could get kicked down the road a little bit further, but they only have so much time to make one of those three options come to fruition.
Is Salih Sunni or a Shiite?
Shia.
He's Shia. Okay. Then the other question I have.
When you say Shia, there are everything from the uber-radical 12th Imamers to almost a non-sectarian uber-liberal Shia. So the Shia is a much larger group, and they're much more diverse than, say, the Sunni or the Kurds. So he's sort of like a body, He's a go-along-to-get-along guy, and he's not a rabid sectarianist like Maliki, for example.
Okay, and then the other issue is I've been told that it's not integral for the government to be set for the CBI to change the rate. The CBI is completely independent from the government, and they can change the rate at any time. So why would that be predicated on the government being seated?
Well, this is the point. The international community, even if they were to RI, is not going to revow them until they are quote unquote stable.
Okay.
The other issue is, and perhaps it's extra constitutional, but because they felt that the CBI operations themselves were somewhat corrupt, the Parliament established the Finance Committee to oversee CBI activities, and the U.S. Treasury's in there now. So they are, I guess, what Iraq has done to the CBI is sort of what Trump administration has done to the central bank and the Federal Reserve. It is no longer a wholly independent group, largely because of malfeasance.
Did I hear you say that the United States is in there overseeing the CBI's proceedings?
The U.S. Treasury is in there as well. Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, well, the last question
they've been there for over a month.
Okay. Has there been any improvements?
Well, my understanding is that the deletion of the zeros project is completed. As I said on the call, all of the lower denoms and coinage are in the possession of the 8 regional banks. They have now completed the process of digitizing the auctions, which are, of course, reducing anyway. But
right.
By digitizing the auctions, the Iranians have lost their ability to skim the hard dollar transactions.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, the last question is this, because I love the program you're presenting. I love the asset protection. It makes sense for some of the assets that I currently have. However, capital conservation is also very important to me. Is there any reason why I cannot put a CRUT as one of the sub-trusts in your program under a master trust?
Because the master trust is written cannot supervise a CRUT. You'd probably have to set up a separate entity. But now you're getting into some real esoteric stuff that the attorney would have to discuss. Now, once the reinstitution of the dinar, that in country, the Iraqi dinar, the calls that we're doing right now are going to stop, and these calls will be run by our attorneys, and that's a technical question that the attorneys can deal with. I don't want to really get into that. But my initial reaction to that is it would probably have to be the creation of a separate entity. But again, once the reinstitution happens, then all of the stuff we're talking about goes away, and we're dealing only with questions like that.
Well, if it's a separate entity, you're saying it cannot be part of this program that you're presenting to us, but it can be done through your company.
Right. Oh yeah, whatever trust vehicle is determined as necessary, whether it's the creation of a sub-trust in this package or the creation of a standalone entity, our firm can do it.
Okay, so the sub-trusts are only for, I guess, tangible items like property and sorts?
Right. And what will happen, of course, is the example I like is individual. We've got individuals that have a lot of rental properties, and they want to move them to our trust package post-RV. So let's say you had half a dozen rental properties. Well, some of them have capital expenditure write-off, some of them have depreciation, some of them have taxable rent. All of that will be consolidated on one tax return through the master trust. So the master trust has authority to do certain things, but you're trying to create basically a tax protective entity, which might be required through a wholly separate standalone entity.
So in that regard, because you can set the CRUT up after the RV and still protect all of your dinar unless you start using it, is what I understand. So that capital can build tax free. So if I have 10 million dinar and I'm getting 10% on it, I'm doing pretty good. And the only time I need to use that money is when I take it out and I pay taxes on the money that's exposed only, correct?
That's correct, if that can be set up that way. The other issue is, once again, we're waiting on confirmation from the Treasury Department on IRS Code Section 643B, which says that the profit realized from this exchange within an irrevocable trust is tax deferred. The advantage of the tax deferral is hypothetically, okay, I can invest 100 cents on the dollar. The issue is whenever you get a tax advantage, there are other accompanying limitations. So we need a response from the IRS. Once the reinstitution happens, I'm pretty sure we can compel the IRS to give us an answer prior to the revaluation, because then they're creating a liability that we cannot allow our clients to be exposed to.
So they're sitting on their heels waiting to see if this thing's going to happen before they commit. Is that what you're telling me?
That's also why we can't negotiate lower transactions fees and a higher rate for our clients, because the banks will not enter into negotiation with us until there's a reinstitution. Half of the banks think it's nonsense, and half the other banks think it's too early to do that. But once the reinstitution happens, then we have leverage to do a lot of things we can't do now.
Okay. All right, Jim, thanks for answering my questions.
Yes, sir, Clay. Take care. Okay, our next caller is area code 312. That's 312. I'll take a wild guess. That's Les.
No wild guess. You're right.
What's up, my friend?
Good afternoon, buddy. So, you're saying we could possibly get this done this week. I'm told
it's possible.
They're supposed to vote tonight, or they're supposed to vote today at 9 p.m., right?
Right, correct.
Okay. So if that is the case and the vote goes through, what happens after this vote?
After this vote, approving or confirming Al-Kazemi, then the placement of his ministers. And they have, 30 days for that. I don't think it'll take 30 days because my understanding is that most of the people he wants in his cabinet, with the exception of 2 or 3 ministerial seats, have already been acknowledged as acceptable. So let's say it takes them 2 weeks to put the other 3 people in place. Then that means the entire government's in place. So the only thing left at that point is to ensure that the Iranian influence is negated and that the CBI work is completed. And at that point, they can reinstitute the currency. The IMF at that point may want to sit back and make sure that the reinstituted rate is sufficient for the Iraqi people to consider the dinar their functional currency rather than the U.S. dollar. And all they need to do for that to be accomplished is to have a reinstituted rate be slightly higher than that of the dollar, say $1.10, $1.15. So, that way the Iraqi citizen would utilize the dinar, and then we're off to the races.
Okay. So looking at the time that they have remaining to get this thing finished, I don't see them having 2 weeks after they get this approved or get the government approved. Their time was less than that, isn't it?
Well, they're at the deadline now for the new government, but if they approve the government, then that guy, the clock starts on him to get his government. In other words, my understanding is they're voting solely on the prime minister nominee. If that guy's accepted, then that guy theoretically has 30 days to get his ministerial government approved. The problem hasn't getting the prime minister approved. The problem is getting his government, his ministerial cabinet in place.
Exactly.
But Al-Kazemi, if he's approved this week, has 30 days to do that, and he's already got 75 or 80% of that cabinet they've already given the affirmative on. The only person trying to block it at this point, or group rather, that's vehemently against this guy and may not even vote is the State of Law Coalition headed by Maliki, and that guy's lost control. He's just he
should be in jail already.
Well, that's why he's well, what I suspect will happen is that he will disappear in the next 30 days. I don't mean something bad will happen to him. I mean he'll find a way to abscond from the country. So, if this government goes through, I mean the accountability and justice law kicks in, and he's in a world of hurt.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So that's where we are. But remember, we're dealing with Iraq. So if there's an X factor out there, they'll find it.
Well, if they don't find it, the U.S. will be taking over and putting whoever in place. That's right. Tick-tock. That's the problem. The previous caller nailed it. He said if it's not Al-Kazemi, it's going to be Alawi. If it's not him, then Salih will step in. So those, to me, I agree, are the only options available to Iraq at this point. And Iran no longer has the juice to affect the outcome. Well, good. All right. Great. Thanks again, Jim. Thanks for taking my call. Sir. Say hi to the professor, and have a great week, man. You too, my friend. Bye-bye. All right. Bye. Well, Les was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. I certainly hope that in the very near future I won't be making these calls, and our attorneys will be here on the phone discussing with you the management and funding of your trust in anticipation of the revaluation of the dinar after its reinstitution. I strongly suggest those of you calling in for the first time contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. Again, it has a lot of information about us,
about the trust, about the evaluation. You can review the package, contact us by phone or email if you have any questions, and there will be no consultation fee. Our next call is, of course, scheduled next Wednesday. Certainly if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, and that's a distinct possibility this week, we'll try to get out an emergency call and schedule a emergency conference call. Failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Bye-bye, everyone, and have a great week.